At just 2 years and 8 months old, Aryatara Shakya became Nepal's living goddess, the royal Kumari, on September 30th, 2025. Around that time, videos of her went viral across social media, and like millions of others, that was the first time I discovered Nepal's incredible Kumari tradition. A tradition where little girls are worshipped as living goddesses. People travel from far away to seek their blessings, offering money, jewelry, and food at their feet. But have you ever wondered where this tradition came from? How is one little girl chosen to become Nepal's Kumari, and is the life of a Kumari really as magical as it appears from the outside? The story begins in the 17th century when Nepal was ruled by King Jaya Malla of the Malla dynasty. The king was deeply devoted to spirituality and worship. His devotion was so intense that people believed he had attained the wisdom of a saint despite being a king. According to legend, one day while the king was sitting alone in his chamber, a beautiful woman suddenly appeared before him. She radiated an extraordinary divine light, and the king immediately realized that she was no ordinary woman. She was goddess Taleju, a form of goddess Durga worshipped across India and Nepal. The goddess sat beside the king, and together they played a traditional game called Tripasa. From that day onward, goddess Taleju visited the king every night, but she had one condition. No one else could ever know about her visits. She would only appear after everyone in the palace had gone to sleep and the king was completely alone. The king faithfully kept his promise. Every night, after finishing all his royal duties, he would quietly return to his chamber to meet the goddess. But as days passed, Queen Daya Lakshmi became suspicious. She couldn't understand why the king spent so much time alone every night before coming to her chamber. One night, unable to control her curiosity, the queen secretly followed him. As she reached the king's room, she noticed a strange glowing light escaping through the doorway. She carefully peeked inside, and what she saw left her speechless. Goddess Taleju herself was sitting beside the king, her divine radiance filling the entire room with such brilliance that it was almost impossible to look directly at her. The moment the goddess noticed the queen, she became furious. She told the king that because he had broken his promise, she would never ever appear before him again. Before the king could apologize or stop her, the goddess disappeared forever. According to legend, that day became one of the darkest days in Nepal's history. After goddess Taleju left, everything in the kingdom began to fall apart. Important works remained unfinished, disasters struck the kingdom, and even religious rituals became difficult to perform. Desperate to win back her blessings, King Jayaprakash Malla devoted himself entirely to worshipping the goddess. Days turned into weeks, and sometimes he spent entire days without eating, drinking, or sleeping, praying only to Taleju. Finally, the goddess appeared in his dreams and said, I can no longer meet you in my divine form, but I will be reborn as a little girl in the Shakya clan of the Newar Buddhist community. Since you have met me, you have seen me before, you will recognize me the moment you see that child. The king was overjoyed and immediately began searching throughout the kingdom. After many days, he finally found a little girl in whom he recognized the presence of the goddess. The queen suggested building a special palace where the child could live and be worshipped as a living goddess. That palace became known as the Kumari Ghar.
Carried on the shoulders of worshippers who are whipped into a trance-like frenzy by the beating of drums and the mad shouting of the multitude.
And the little girl became Nepal's very first royal Kumari. She was treated as a living deity, surrounded by luxury, honor, and devotion. Legend says that after the goddess returned in this form, Nepal's misfortunes came to an end. From then on, a new tradition was established. The moment the Kumari experienced her first menstruation, it was believed that the goddess had left her body and a new girl would be chosen to become the next Kumari. But this tradition faced one major problem. Only King Jaya Malla was believed to be capable of recognizing goddess Taleju. As long as he was alive, selecting the next Kumari wasn't difficult. But after his death, no one knew how to identify the goddess anymore. And that's when a selection process began that many people still find shocking today. Although Nepal has 16 Kumaris in different regions, only one of them is considered the Royal Kumari, the highest and most important among them all. Whenever a new Kumari must be chosen, an announcement is made across Nepal inviting families from the Shakya community to bring girls younger than 4 or 5 years of age. But simply belonging to the Shakya clan isn't enough. The family must have remained within the community through marriage, and it is believed that no member of the family should have committed any sort of major sins or immoral acts. The girls are then examined for 32 physical characteristics believed to resemble the goddess. These include eyelashes like a cow, deep black eyes, a small tongue, a soft voice, a strong chest like a lion, perfectly intact baby teeth, and absolutely no scars or marks anywhere on the body. Even a small scratch can disqualify a child. After this, the selected girls' horoscopes were traditionally matched with the king's horoscope to determine whether the Kumari would bring prosperity to the kingdom. After Nepal became a democracy, the horoscope began being matched with the country's president instead. But the most terrifying test still remained. On Kalratri, 108 buffaloes and goats are sacrificed at the Taleju temple, and their severed heads are placed inside a dark room. The chosen child is then taken into the room alone and must spend the entire night there. The purpose is to test whether she shows any fear. If she cries, screams, or even shows the slightest expression of fear, she is immediately rejected. But if she spends the entire night calmly without fear, she is believed to be the true embodiment of the goddess. Even after this, one final test still remains. The next day, ornaments that belong to the previous Kumaris are placed before the child. It is believed that the goddess will recognize her own sacred jewelry. If the little girl correctly identifies them, Nepal has found its new royal Kumari. At this point, one question naturally comes to mind. If becoming a Kumari is so difficult, why do so many families still want their daughters to become one? Faith certainly plays a role, but for many families, there's also another reason: money. The donations, gifts, respect, and facilities received because of the Kumari often help improve the entire family's financial condition. But what happens to the girls themselves? Once a girl becomes the Kumari, she must leave her family home and live inside the Kumari Ghar until she reaches puberty. She's allowed to leave the palace only 13 or 14 times a year, usually during an important religious festival. Servants perform almost every task for her. She's not allowed to freely speak with devotees, and she's never allowed to cry because many believe that the tears of the Kumari are a sign of a great disaster about to strike the nation. While she remains the Kumari, she's treated like a goddess and lacks nothing. But her greatest struggles begin the moment she stops being one. As soon as she starts menstruating, she loses her divine status and must return to ordinary life. For many former Kumaris, this means starting life from absolute zero. This is exactly what happened to Preeti Shakya, who served as Kathmandu's Royal Kumari from 2001 to 2008. A girl who had never walked on the ground because she was always carried in someone's arm or in a ceremonial palanquin suddenly had to learn how to walk through crowded streets wearing ordinary shoes. Even simple things that most people take for granted became difficult. The emotional adjustment was even harder. After growing up in a peaceful environment where everyone treated her with reverence, she suddenly entered a world where people criticized her, argued with her, and judged her like everyone else. Preeti once recalled how shocked she was when a boy called her fat because nobody had ever spoken to her that way before. She also struggled in school because she had missed years of formal education while serving as the Kumari. In the past, Kumaris were not allowed to receive an education because it was believed that a goddess did not need to learn from ordinary humans. But former royal Kumari Rashmila Shakya, who served from 1984 to 1991, challenged that belief. After leaving the palace, she fought through enormous difficulties to continue her education. She eventually earned a bachelor's degree in computer applications and wrote her autobiography, From Goddess to Mortal. Thanks to her efforts and those of human rights activists, Nepal's Supreme Court later ordered that private tutors should teach Kumaris inside the palace so they would not fall behind academically after returning to normal life. The struggles do not end there. A long standing belief in Nepal says that any man who marries a former Kumari will die young. Although this superstition has no scientific basis, it has made marriage extremely difficult for many former Kumaris, affecting their ability to build families and live ordinary lives. Today, the Nepalese government provides former Kumaris with a monthly financial allowance to support them after they leave the palace. But even then, one question remains. Can any tradition, no matter how sacred it may be, truly justify taking away a child's normal childhood? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel. I'll see you in the next video.